Cuomo here. Thank you for the company. I hope Daddy Day made good memories. If I sound sick, it is because I am, and I'll get to that in a bit. But let me set the table by calling something out. Have you realized that everything seems to be political these days? It's not an accident. Remember the Super Bowl and all that BS about Taylor Swift and the conspiracies? That was the tipping point for me. We are circling the drain of the battle to the bottom, to mix some metaphors. There will be no real debate in this election about the economy and what to do about your concerns or how to fix immigration or how to deal with the loss of the artisan class as colleges eat up our savings and leave graduates on our couches. It's just all gotchas and culture wars all the time. Why? Because it works, my brothers and sisters. Not for you, not for me, but for the parties. They only give you two choices. And the easiest way for them to win is what? To make the other guy lose. Binary system, zero sum. One wins because the other loses. And now, this race is so close in the most recent polls after Trump's conviction, with independents peeling off, that the parties are desperate. And they are so all in with their battle to the bottom that they're using whatever happens to scare their base into coming out to avoid whatever they imagine about the other side. See the game. Examples. Caitlyn Clark, the WNBA rookie who was like a Rorschach test for social commentators. Is she getting treated poorly? Unusually so? If so, why? Color? Is it that Caitlyn Clark is white and straight in a league with a lot of black and gay players? Now, most people won't even put it that way. And if you say, yeah, that's what I think it is, you're racist. And if you say, no, I don't think that's what it is, you're an apologist for reverse racism. Why? All gotcha, all the time. There is no room for conversation because people only seek advantage. They don't want accommodations, they want apologies. Apologize for what you said, apologize for what you thought. It's just a gotcha. We will discuss it here tonight with a very smart man who has a very straight take. But see this noise for what it is, a distraction by the political players from what really matters. This is all that matters to me, is for you to get this and train yourself to look at it and reject it and see who's playing you. It's the only reason I'm doing the job. It's the only reason I came back on TV. Now, next example, Biggie. Which one of these two old white men is in worse shape to lead? These are the two worst choices for president in my lifetime. It's not me saying it. It's you. The polls, more than 2 of 3, say you don't like either. We've never seen a number like that. Now, I know it doesn't feel like that it's the consensus that they both suck. Why? Because the media plays to social media as vox populi. They don't want to do the work of figuring out where your heads and hearts are in the country. They just look at social media. What does social media do? It's not reality. It magnifies minorities, fringe minorities. On one side, ride or die with Trump, right? That's the right side. And on the other side, anybody but Trump. So let's be honest. Both these men are not our best. Biden shows it more, sure. But these people who say he's not part of the mix, he's checked out, his staff are also worried, it's BS. It's wishful thinking, propaganda. Now, I'm not saying that he's showing well, that he's doing the messaging he needs to do to win. I think that's not the case. But I have sources who we're talking to the guy every day. They have no reason to lie to me, and they never have. They're just playing you. Now, I'm not saying that you can't look at him and listen to him and make a judgment that you don't think he's robust enough. You don't think he's on it enough. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this boogeyman that he's about to keel over is BS. The latest is this alleged freeze on stage. The White House is right to go after it as a bunch of hooey. We're going to get into it for what it is and what it isn't. Look, the reality is Trump couldn't remember his doctor's name recently. CEOs recently left a meeting saying he couldn't keep a straight thought. His party is desperate for him to speak up about the issue that could kill them. You know, this party that's all about individual liberty, right, the GOP, seems intent on taking away reproductive rights, not just from women, men too. You ban IVF, you stop a lot of people from having families. We'll discuss it. My pet peeve of how we can't let these people distract and duck really comes together in how we ignore the legacy of the pandemic. First of all, the pandemic should have brought us together like 9/11 did. Instead, it became a football. And now we're more divided after the pandemic than we were before it. Why? Hard times breed weak people. The messaging was poor, in part because our messengers were scientists, not politicians. Trump and Biden both punted and let the white coats do the talking, and they shouldn't have. Partly because they didn't have the skills to message the way you should politically. Partly because they weren't transparent enough about what they did not know. Partly because they didn't allow enough debate about these public measures. And once again, voices were marginalized. Even if they weren't advancing our understanding, even if they weren't based on better facts. And when you silence voices, we got to learn this lesson. What you ignore, you empower. And now you've fomented all this fringe thinking and conspiracy think about COVID. We need to force those in power to review the pandemic. I know it's not part of the election. That's unforgivable to me. You cannot have a segment of Trump land that is staunchly anti-vax and just ignore them. Except, of course, to exploit their paranoia to build your social media business. Did avoiding the vaccine really make people die at a higher rate? Did it really make people get more sick at a higher rate? Are people now not getting the flu vaccine and not getting kids other vaccines because of this paranoia? Why aren't we talking about long COVID and vaccine side effects? Tens of millions, maybe more, sick, really sick, unexplained ailments. Why do we cover it here on my show more than most of the rest of the major media combined? Now, one reason is I have it, right? But I'm fortunate, okay? You go on my Substack with my doctor, Dr. Robin Rose. She'll take you all through what I'm doing. It's $5 a month. I want to use a portion of that money to help people get treatment for long COVID with her and her group who can't afford it. But I'm a fortunate long hauler. And still, because of my long COVID, long haul, whatever you want to call it, I'm lucky to get 4 to 6 weeks straight without getting sick with something that should last a few days, but for me, it takes weeks. I'm on antibiotics all the time. And I am more fortunate than most. Why are we warring over pride parades and ignoring the legacy of the pandemic? Convenience, distraction, gotchas, avoiding what matters. And now the biggest target of this desperate disruption, reproductive rights. It's not just about abortion. This is about removing a right to start a family. So now, women can't decide what happens in their body when they're pregnant. Men and women may not be allowed to control if they get pregnant, because contraception is now on the table. And they may not have options to start a family together if they can't conceive naturally. That's not Christian, it's chaos. And yet the right is catering to this crazy. Forcing one faith on all in America? Senator Scott in Florida. No, not that one, the other one. Going bad on his own family that used IVF. And at the top of the food chain, pandering for political reasons, is Trump. He won't say boo to the Baptist convention that just voted to limit IVF or get rid of it altogether after saying he'd protect it after the Alabama bill. Why? Because they're too afraid of losing. It's a great example of how weak our leadership is. It's all about advantage. It's just like Biden not wanting to take on his left flank about what national security means at the southern border. They're afraid of the few and ignoring the many. Look, Trump's doing the same thing with a big part of his base that's rabidly anti-vax. How can they be anti-vax but pro-Trump? He gave you the vaccine. He took it. He got boosted. He told you to do the same. He introduced the lockdowns. He says they were the right thing. He's not going around saying you should have all taken ivermectin. You know what he said when he got sick? What'd he say? Don't give me any of that other stuff. Give me the good stuff. He wanted the monoclonal antibodies. What's going on here? What is going on? We are getting consumed by the game. And I just want you to see it. IVF is huge for families all over this family, all over this country. Trump has said nothing. Biden's not saying enough. We have a pandemic that just passed. People are still getting sick all over the place. COVID's not going anywhere. Neither one of them discusses it. But we're talking about Caitlyn Clark. Pride parades. Who uses what bathroom? You got people on the right all calling themselves libertarians. It's like it's like the new letter in LGBTQ. I'm a libertarian. It's like a way of saying that you're kind of better than both sides. You're like the bisexual of politics. It's all BS. They're playing you, and they're playing you for advantage, and I just want you to see it. That is the food for thought, okay? Now, let's talk about where we are in this state of play, all right? I want to bring in two very good minds on how party and how politics and how media all come along in kind of this sordid stew to play to advantage, okay? Now, the latest is, which one of these guys is most likely to kind of keel over if they're president, right? And of course, Biden's way out in the lead on this. The latest is this thing with him and Obama. Dusty, do we have it so that we can show people? All right, so I want to show you this moment. So Joe Biden's fundraising with Obama, okay? I think he's got Jimmy Kimmel there. You know, he's trying to raise money. This is how you do it. Now they go walking away. The spin is that he froze, didn't know where he was, and Obama had to walk him off. Cognitive awareness isn't there. The White House says this is BS. He just wanted to take in the crowd, and he's an old man. Like, how many times do we have to say it? Does that mean he can't do the job? I don't know. It depends on how he makes the case. I think that this debate is everything for him, this first debate. If he doesn't show that he can go toe-to-toe and make the case that he has to make, I think Joe Biden has to ask himself a really big question about whether it matters enough to him to keep this country from more Trump to let somebody else beat him, because he can't. He's got to make that determination. Party won't make it for him. Now, the White House Senior Deputy Press Secretary, Andrew Bates, says that's complete BS. He didn't freeze. It was nothing like that. It was just lying about Biden and cheap fakes. Now, I believe it's a little bit of both. I believe he's not who he was. And I also believe that it's being grossly exaggerated. How many times have you heard O'Reilly on my air saying, he's going to drop out, he's not going to make it, I have a source? I think that's complete hooey, all right? Now, to balance it out, again, Donald Trump's not somebody you want to swap bodies with, all right? Saturday in Michigan, Trump challenged Biden to take a cognitive test, bragging that he aced the dementia exam 6 years ago. Then he forgets the name of the doctor who gave it to him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, take a look at this. Or not. So anyway, he's on stage, and he can't remember the name of his doctor. Okay. Then he meets with CEOs on Friday. They come out of the meeting, tell CNBC, I got to tell you, the guy was meandering all over the place. He couldn't keep a straight thought. That's who you want as president? You're picking from two crappy choices. Just know that. And know that all they want you to do is think the other one is worse. Because it works for the parties. Now, let's bring in Geraldo Rivera and Scotty Nell Hughes. Okay, you know, of course, Geraldo is our gift here, correspondent at large. Scotty Nell Hughes got a new show coming on, by the way. One of the best, most genuine conservatives we have left. Scotty and I talk all the time. She's one of the few who's still guided by that lodestar of, well, I'm a conservative. I'm not just going to say what I'm supposed to say. And yet, here we are to try to take on what's going on. So, Geraldo, first of all, am I just wrong that I don't see why this is so important to compare which one of these two guys is worse? Neither one of them is up to what we would want. Biden clearly shows it more than Trump does. But at the end of the day, how important do you think this will be?
I think it will be very important. 3/4 of the American people are concerned that President Biden is too old to be running for office, for re-election. First of all, I have to say, I feel terrible that you're ill. I really, it makes me feel awful. You're such a macho guy. To see you fishing and strutting around, and then to see you be ill, it bothers me. I'm sorry. And I hope you get through this long COVID business. With President Biden, I have to say, he seems very fragile. He seems, I love the guy. I want him to succeed. I want him to be reelected. He's done a pretty good job, but he seems as if when he starts wandering around the stage, this may or may not have been an example of that, but it certainly gives you food for thought. He just maybe it's the bright lights, maybe it's his eyesight, and he can't deal with the comparison of bright and dark. But he seems like a lost soul. He seems like a very old man to me. He's only 8 months older than I am. But I don't think that I would wander around to the extent that I can walk with my cane. I don't think I'd be wandering around looking for the exit. He needs a minder. He needs a minder.
But here's the thing, Scotty, and you and I, we were together with Geraldo at the debate. First of all, Geraldo is like supernatural, right? I mean, just look at the head of hair on this cat. Yeah, he's got a little orthopedic problem with the back and the hip, but he's not a good example of what we expect. Biden is what you expect at this age and stage. But my point is, Scotty, do you guys have an advantage candidate over the other one in terms of their acuity and their ability to make the message? Yeah, but isn't this just a battle to the bottom, Scotty? I mean, isn't it kind of sad that Trump is the best that the GOP has to offer and Biden is the best that the Democrats have to offer?
Well, and yet here we are with both of them after going through a primary process where we could have run anybody, and this is who we've ended up with, and this is who the American choice is. So obviously, both of them resonate with their party. Listen, the reason why I think Geraldo likes President Biden so much is it's just been a continuation of Obama and the third term of Obama, and they liked the policies that Obama had, and obviously Biden's agreed to those. I think if we had a better vice presidential candidate that would agree with the Democrats, potentially Biden would be out and you would see Kamala Harris running. But right now, it doesn't look like that the Democrats are very supportive of Kamala Harris, would rather keep Biden in. And if they would have had a better opportunity, a better chance like a Gavin Newsom, but I think the establishment Democrats realize Gavin is going to take the party in a more progressive, a different way than necessarily even the Biden administration would. And they feel more comfortable in wanting to have at least a fourth term of Obama's agenda continuing through the White House and in this country.
Is that how you see it, Geraldo?
I think that President Biden is, in terms of policy, is right on. I think that he is he reminds me of Jimmy Carter, very underrated. History will have another look at his term in office, and I think will applaud him for it rather than the kind of disrespect he gets now. But there is no doubt, Chris, that he is not that his flexibility, his mental acuity, his ability to articulate and to project. You would not hire Joe Biden to be your commentator. Can you imagine giving him all right, you have 2 minutes now, vamp on NATO, vamp on the border, vamp on, you name it, the economy. He would be all over, to the extent that you would even hear him because he's just so modest in everything. And there is, look, when you see that, that's your grandpa. That's not the person you want in the Oval Office making the decision on whether or not to hit the nuclear trigger. God bless him. Now, with Gavin Newsom and all those other hotshots, they had a lot of them. They either were in the primary, they floated their names, they spent money, and guess what? They got a big dud. Nobody wanted any of these guys. Kamala Harris is probably the most unpopular vice president in recent years. Trouble. And the Democrats are stuck.
She's got trouble. The Democrats are stuck. But let's be honest. The game is rigged, all right, to sound Trumpian here. The Republicans, it was over. Trump didn't even have to participate. He was going to win. And on the left, they lock in their own candidates. The party system is closed. We allow them to control it at the state level. It's complete BS. System's got to change. If it doesn't, you're going to keep getting crappy candidates. Here's why I don't care about this issue, Scotty, because I believe it's cover for what matters more. I think that this IVF issue has ballooned. It's one thing to say, it's a baby, save the baby in the belly. Okay, I get how that can resonate, especially with Christian voters, okay? But that's not it anymore. And now it's, maybe they shouldn't be able to have contraception. Really? That affects men and women. And maybe IVF really shouldn't happen because that's not the way it is in the Bible. Really? And even Senator Scott in Florida gets soft on it because you're so afraid of losing the Christians. How big of a bombshell is your party playing with by courting the Christian right's desire to go back to olden times of baby making?
Here's the thing, Cuomo. This is where your motto is absolutely perfect for this subject, because it's become a political football. It has nothing to do with fertility or family, investing in the family. This has become an election year issue that Democrats have once again set the trap, and Republicans, backed up by the Heritage Foundation, the Southern Baptist Convention, are falling for it beautifully. Let's look at the facts of the situation. IVF is legal in all 50 states. There's not a single state legislature that is actually pushing to make it illegal or to put restrictions on it. Democrats so often take an issue like this that is so emotionally charged and federalize it when there's not one, just to make a political game. They load up this bill to federalize it, as they have done, and when Republicans say it's a non-issue, don't want to do anything with it, then they can successfully sell this narrative that Republicans want to ban it. And they've been able to successfully bring in the issue of birth control, when the reality is there is no actual bill anywhere across the United States, no Republican legislature, especially in states like Utah, Tennessee, where I'm at, Alabama, that are fully controlled by Republicans, where this has even been brought up. And Democrats are being able to
Alabama brought it up.
An issue that's a states' rights issue and not even on the radar.
Alabama brought it up, and Trump is really quiet about it.
By outlawing.
But let's talk about how Alabama came up. And this, especially looking at Geraldo, he'll appreciate this. State laws, what happened in Alabama was that there's no restrictions on these facilities. You had a patient wander into this cryogenic nursery, pick up a tray, drop it, because there were no rules in place or regulations. And because of that, 3 families lost the opportunity to be able to have a family of biological children that way. That's what happened in Alabama. But guess what? IVF is still very legal. All that these organizations are doing are asking for some rules.
When you hear
the
Southern
Trump come
Baptist,
out after that happened in Alabama and say, hey, they went too far. We've got to protect IVF. So obviously he took it the way a lot of people do. Geraldo, give me something on this. You got family experience with it. So do I.
The Southern Baptist Convention makes very clear that they have targeted IVF, they have targeted birth control, they have targeted the abortion pill. They, Roe v. Wade was the opening chapter. They're coming for your freedom, your reproductive freedom, wherever you live. Ladies in the suburbs, hear me. This is the fear, and it will blow up in the Republicans' face like it's as bigger than immigration, bigger than Ukraine or Gaza. This is huge when people feel threatened. I saw it here in Ohio, a red state, where they amended the Constitution. Between 1987, Chris, and 2015, there were 1 million IVF babies born in this country. I treasure them. Why? Because one of them was my own. You know her very well, Isabella, my daughter. You tried to recruit her to be one of the producers.
Yeah,
She's a senior producer on your show.
I keep trying to hire this
She's
kid,
a senior
Scotty.
producer at CNN
no.
right now.
I don't know why she would. You have an amazing staff. It'd be an honor to have you on the resume. Guaranteed success.
Look, here's what we know.
She's loyal to someone else what Chris
Oh, she's great. She's great, and every time you get an offer away, it makes them measure you, and then in her case, they wind up moving her up, and deservedly so. But I'll get her at some point. So here's my point. I just want people to be aware that they're being played out there for party advantage. This is the same stuff that happens with the Second Amendment. You're now seeing it happen on the IVF side. It's a boogeyman because nobody wants to talk straight to you. They'd rather you think the other guy's going to keel over instead of telling you why you got better ideas than him in the first place. Scotty Nell Hughes, good luck with the new show. I can't wait to hear all about it. Geraldo Rivera, I love you. But never compare yourself to anybody else your age because it's not fair. I still don't want any part of you when you're upset.
Okay.
And I know I can outrun you now. Okay. I'll talk to you later. 4 minutes and 5 seconds coming up. All right, let's talk Caitlyn Clark. All right, enough with all the memes and the suggestions. Oh, this is it. The blacks are getting back at the whites. What? Oh, no, it's not fair because she gets all the shine and she gets all this stuff that black players don't get. Really? The media loves it. Why? Controversy. But is this good for us? Is this good for her? Is this good for the game? Michael Eric Dyson, a real mind, a real soul. Next.
The other thing with Caitlyn, anytime you are a race that is in an industry that usually doesn't excel in that industry, it's going to be more of a spectacle.
CarPlay and Alexa. Getting on the network Leesburg relies on is easy when you come into the Verizon store at 1612 Village Market Boulevard Southeast. Come check out their latest deals on phones, accessories, and so much more. From shopping to support and everything in between, it's your one-stop shop to get it all. And when you switch to Verizon, you choose what goes into your unlimited plan and save on what you need. There's never been a better time to switch to the network Leesburg relies on. Visit the Verizon store at 1612 Village Market Boulevard Southeast to speak with Thomas and save big today.
This Quest for Gold Athlete Spotlight from NewsNation on the Go features Greco-Roman wrestler Joe Rao. The Chicago native missed out on the 2016 and 2021 Olympics and thought his Olympic dreams were dashed. He even retired after missing qualification for Tokyo, frustrated over what he thought was biased judging. He thought he was done, but he slowly got back into wrestling as a coach at Northwestern University and unknowingly started carving out a new path to the Olympics.
It made sense and it felt right, and I was having the success that gave me the proof that I still could become an Olympian. So then I was like, why the heck not go for it?
He qualified for Paris at the U.S. trials in the spring. What's helped balance him out? Comedy. When he's done working out new moves, he works out comedy material at improv theaters in Chicago and Colorado.
You get nervous before comedy sets, you get nervous before matches, and I use wrestling to be able to get my head right for comedy, and I use comedy to get my head right for, the stages in wrestling, which is they kind of complement each other.
This 33-year-old admits his first Olympics could be his last. He's also learned never to say never. I'm Ryan Bro for NewsNation on the Go. You can hear full athlete interviews and updates on the Summer Games by searching Quest for Gold on most podcast platforms.
With journalists in more than 100 newsrooms across the country, this is NewsNation, America's fastest-growing cable news network.
What are some examples of USDA research into pollinator health? One is found in Tucson, Arizona, where Gloria Hoffman serves as research leader for an agricultural research service project.
We've expanded and are looking at climate change effects on honeybees and how we might mitigate those through nutrition and also through things like changing our overwintering practices of colonies.
So as examples of how this research is targeted and what types of connections honeybee colony health may have in relationship with climatic factors,
the research that we're doing here and also with our colleagues really throughout the ARS is looking at the effects of climate change on germination of flowering plants throughout the year, how things like drought and high heat can affect the nutrients in the pollen that the bees collect and also the availability of nectar.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Crypto Fits, crypto breaking news.
Brought to you by ReddingBitcoinCenter.com. One of the ways you can prevent your crypto from being stolen. Install antivirus software. A basic security measure that you probably already do is to have antivirus software installed on all your devices. This will help protect you from any malware that could be hiding behind things that you download to your computer. Even if you're downloading something from a legitimate company's website, it's still possible for malware to be hiding within it. In addition, antivirus software can help protect you in the event you accidentally click on any phishing links in your email. The pros are it's simple to install, already commonly used, and there are options with affordable subscriptions. Install antivirus software to protect your crypto.
Follow the latest in crypto and NFT news at CryptoFits.io.
Is Caitlyn Clark success because she's only white? Is that what you're saying?
Like I said, I think that when you are a race that excels in an industry, right, that race usually doesn't excel, it's more of a spectacle.
No. Let's just be very clear, all right? Caitlyn Clark is a success because she can shoot the ball, and she can dribble and shoot off. I mean, she's great. That's Charlemagne the God talking with Bill Maher. Charlemagne's got his theories about being white being an enhancer for her. All right, let's talk about it. WNBA rookie Caitlyn Clark is definitely successful. Now, what do we mean by that? She scored the most points in college in a career. She's getting paid. She got paid with that NIL, the name, image, and likeness. She got millions of dollars in college. Is that what it's about? Is that she's getting all this money now? Is that what it's about? Now, we did not see this, and we didn't have this discussion when Diana Taurasi, came in the league. You know who she is? Look her up. She may be as dominant a player as the WNBA has ever seen. And she had a way bigger college career than Caitlyn Clark did in terms of wins, championships at UConn. So what is it about Caitlyn Clark? She does get fouled a lot, third most in the league, but she's got the ball in her hands a lot. But what kinds of fouls? What kinds of treatment? This one has now become the flashpoint. She's going in on Sunday, Angel Reese, who's become like her nemesis. This is the foul. Now, my take as a former ball player and an all-time hacker, that's a flagrant foul all day long. She can say she was going for the ball. She had no chance of getting it. Caitlyn was clearly past her. Reese is no big leaper. She whacked her in the side of the head. Everybody knows it, okay? Now, you did that to LeBron, you'd probably get thrown out of the game. It's a flagrant foul in the NBA all day long. But when people see it, it's like a Rorschach test. Some say, well, that's it. They're doing it to her because she's white. Some say, no, that's the league and she's the star and that's what happens. You know, you're a rookie. You got to, kind of deal with it. This is part of the game now. Race, sexuality, economics. Or is it just more BS to stoke controversy and this is just the game? That's what Caitlyn Clark says, by the way. Every time she's asked about it, she says, hey, and don't believe that stuff online. Well, no, she took shots today. That's all AI. It is all AI. Every time this kid is asked about it, she says, it's just the game. I got no problem with Angel Reese. She's doing the right thing. How about everybody else? Let's bring in distinguished university professor of African American and diaspora studies at Vanderbilt, Michael Eric Dyson, someone I turn to all the time for more fruitful understanding of what's going on in society around us. It is good to see you, young man. It has been a minute. I hope Father's Day was good for you and yours. What is your take on what we are experiencing with this dialogue around this kid?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's good to be here. Happy Father's Day to you. And I echo my man Geraldo. I'm used to seeing you do your thing, man. Keep doing it. We want you to be well soon because you continue to inspire us. Look, this is a complicated situation in this sense. There's no doubt Caitlyn Clark is one of the greatest ball players ever. This, end of the story, bottom line. It is also true because things can be simultaneously true. It is true that she's a phenomenal player, and it's true that her race has played into this on either side. You can imagine Asia Wilson, two-time WNBA champion, two-time MVP, bestseller, New York Times, tall and beautiful, as marketable, you would think, as they come, didn't get her own shoe contract until Caitlyn entered the league and got her own. So is there a necessary relationship between Caitlyn being a white girl, she being a black girl, and she not getting any love? No. But in this particular instance, I think when you mentioned Diana Taurasi is a mugger. Diana Taurasi is a beast. Diana Taurasi is arguably the GOAT, the greatest of all time, right? That's arguable.
Amazing skills. Amazing body, her ability to do things. But she checked another box that Caitlyn Clark does. I think sexuality should be on the table also, not because there's a bigotry or a bias, but people are alluding to it, and I don't like that. Right. I want to have the conversation.
Well, let's talk explicitly about that, but here's my point. She's a bigger woman, though. Caitlyn Clark is your daughter, is your niece. Like, oh, my God, why are you trying to beat up on this poor little girl? Now, this poor little girl
6 foot, 6 foot, but these are big people now playing this game.
Relatively speaking. Yeah. So she talks trash, like Larry Bird, another interesting example. She'll get in your face. She'll get in your ear. So this woman is able to take care of herself. So we don't need society intervening with the big black girls who are beating her up. Now, I understood what you said about that was a flagrant foul. A flagrant foul is still a basketball play. It's not like it's not a basketball play when Kennedy hit her the other day and knocked her over. That's not a basketball play. This was a basketball play. Michael Jordan got hammered. Bill Laimbeer for the Detroit Pistons and Isaiah Thomas. I'm from Detroit, bro. It was brutal. So my point is simply this. Those who don't know the WNBA is far tougher than the NBA. Those young ladies are far tougher than the guys, number one. Number two, there's a reason why the NCAA Women's League was far more successful and popular than the men's this year. Why? Because they're entertaining, they're engaging, you've got narratives, you've got storylines that are amazing. So we have to acknowledge that Caitlyn Clark is extraordinary. Race has been brought into it. Can we say that, look, there have been other players who have been equally great and powerful, who have not gotten the kind of recognition, yes, who have happened to be African-American people as well? Yes, because Aja Wilson said, I think race has something to do with it as well. We can debate that. But the point is, let's not pretend that this doesn't reflect upon larger issues that we have to negotiate all the time. Who gets the love? Who gets the celebration? What does marketable mean? If marketable means that the larger white public identifies with her, which seems reasonable, that she gets a Wilson contract, only Michael Jordan among players got your own basketball. She is getting an extraordinary hookup. Does she deserve it? Absolutely, in terms of her skill. Is she getting a better kind of consideration than other comparable African-American players? Absolutely true. So two things are simultaneously true, and we have to acknowledge that. Some people want to coddle her. Oh, my God, a fragile little white girl, and she's a tough beast. On the other hand, people see that the way in which look, Aja Wilson the other day got hammered coming through the lane. There was no dialogue. There was no discourse. Is she being unfairly treated? So we have to at least put our bona fides on the table, examine these things completely, and say, let's be honest about it either way. Sexuality, absolutely right. Look, far more open are the WNBA players than the NBA players. Rest assured, there are many gay players in the NBA. They're just not out. They're not capable of being explicit. What I love about the women's league, it's all out there, baby. Their sexuality, their issues of race, their ability to stand up as socially conscientious people and arbiters of social conscience in this nation. This is why I love the WNBA.
I mean, look, she's definitely popped ratings. I don't think it would be wrong if there is something that people identify with her as a white audience, a white fan, when she's a white player. That doesn't make you racist. But hiding it, deflecting from it.
Right. You can be race conscious and not racist, right?
The only thing that I think is crazy, this is the only thing I think is crazy, then I'll give you the last point, and I appreciate you coming on, Mike. I missed you.
Right.
The league is stupid to let their good rookies get smacked around. You got to protect your talent early on, because if you lose Caitlyn Clark, or you lose any of those top three rookies, but really Caitlyn Clark, your viewership is going to tank. So we see it in the NBA, we see it in the NFL. You got to protect the people that have us watching.
There's no question. But see, you're making an argument that is quite interesting here, because others would immediately say, but you're not being that concerned, or you weren't that concerned when other women, equally talented, there are a few, who were being smacked around, who were being beat upon, who had not secured the nation's interest. And the reason they hadn't secured the nation's interest, they didn't look like them. She didn't look like Becky. She looked like Shaniqua. And as a result of that, that didn't translate. Is that racist? No. Is it racially specific? Yes. Is it race conscious? Yes. And let's deal with the truth of that matter without trying to brush it under the rug.
I agree with you 100%. It's great to see you. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for the insight, as always.
Love you, man.
Appreciate
Feel better, brother.
Thank you. Michael Eric Dyson. That's why we have him on. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, this is going to be a case that is a metaphor for the madness of our southern border. An undocumented migrant, a killer, just arrested for murder in this country. A Maryland mom. Beautiful. Beautiful. Everything you want in a family. Rachel Moran went on a jog, never came home. The cops say it's because of him. Found brutally beaten, blunt force trauma. The suspect also accused of murdering another woman in his home country, El Salvador. This is why the right says they are coming for you, the bad hombres. Rachel's mom joins us, and we're going to look at the realities of our national security. From El Salvador, where he is also accused of murdering a woman. Police say he has connections to Salvadoran street gangs. Law enforcement linked DNA evidence from Rachel's crime scene to a home invasion in March 2023, where a woman and child were assaulted. This was good police work. Ring cam video captured a shirtless man exiting the LA home. Remember this? We kept showing it. If you know anybody, if it sparks anything, remember all that? Turned out that the match was with Hernandez. He now faces rape and first-degree murder charges in Maryland. So, How did the suspect in Moran's assault and murder enter this country illegally so many times and go on a months-long terror spree, avoiding capture? Now, what matters most is what was lost for this family. And we have Rachel's mother, Patty. I also have FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan and Chad Wolf, friend of show, former head of Homeland Security. Thank you, gentlemen. But Rachel, I'm so sorry to meet you under these circumstances, but I know your family wants people to understand what was lost and who was lost and what matters. What do we need to know about your daughter, as beautiful as she was, as much as we know about the beautiful family she's raised? What do you want people to know?
I want them to know that Rachel lived life fearlessly. She was very loving and compassionate towards people. And she desperately loved her children. She worked really hard to support her family. And she took very good care of herself. And she loved life. And to have somebody just take it from her, to rob her of her future and then also her children's future. She would have gotten the news that she was going to be a grandmother for the first time if she had lived. And now her grandchildren are never going to know this awesome lady. It's devastating.
What has been the hardest part for you in dealing with what's been learned about this situation emotionally?
The hardest thing was the waiting. 10 months of not really having any kind of solid information. We had DNA, but it was kind of like hanging in limbo. And so it's not like you could rest or put context to anything. It was just very liminal. And so hearing that they have arrested a suspect, at least it helps to, for lack of better words, put walls around it and a floor so that we have an idea of the possible suspect and maybe we'll learn a motive. And I know that it's not going to change the outcome, but it will help us work towards a resolution in our grief.
I think that's very well said. And I wish you and the family the best in coping with this process. And I want you to join me in bringing in these other two guys to get a sense of how we got here. Stu, this is good police work, but to Rachel's point, not a possible suspect. They have a DNA match that is very compelling evidence here. What do you make of the investigation and what it reveals?
The FBI did an exceptional job. They went above and beyond. They used genetic genealogy testing, the advancement of DNA, matching, facial recognition, you name it, they pulled out all stops. But may I say, Chris, number one is to the family, my heartfelt condolences. But it does, again, and I've been on your show, this is sickening to me because another example of a crime that could have been avoided if we would wake up and close our borders and allow our federal agents to do what they're tasked to do, and that is to keep out animals such as this individual from coming in and preying on good people. And look at the wreck that this man has left for this family now to have to deal with this trauma. It's outrageous, it's avoidable, and yet it falls on deaf ears.
Chad, we've talked about this before. The pushback to Stuart's point is, well, but this is the exception, not the rule. Illegal entrants aren't the criminal problem in America other than their entry. We have our own problems with our own people in here, and yet this guy's a killer there, he's a killer here, he's getting in and out, nobody can catch him. What does this speak to in your understanding of our national security at the southern border?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the question I would ask is how many is too many, right? So even though, overall the numbers might be low as far as the percentage of crimes committed here in the United States, your other guess was exactly right. So any crime committed by an illegal alien is a crime that could have been prevented if you have certain measures in place, if you have mandatory detention in place. Look, I think there's a number of questions that still need to be answered here. Did U.S. authorities know that he had committed crimes in El Salvador and let him into the country? The gang affiliation, if they knew it, should have been grounds for mandatory detention. So there's a number of things here that still need to be answered by U.S. immigration officials for us to understand what we knew and when we knew it. And is this a mistake of how the Biden administration, again, processes illegal aliens into the country? They're not preventing them from coming in. It's simply how they're processing them in.
Rachel, this is what I can promise you. I'm not going to drag you into politics, but I'm also not going to let your daughter's legacy just be how she lost her life. We're going to stay on this because everybody likes to talk about what the problem is. They just don't want to fix it because the problem works better. But now you've got another family affected by this. She was so beautiful. She put so much light in this world. And we'll make sure that her legacy is that people pay attention to the circumstances surrounding her death. Thank you for joining us. Stu, Chad, thank you for setting us straight about the realities here from a policy and political perspective. Appreciate you all. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. You know, we've been getting a lot of traction on the show, especially online, and I appreciate you for that. I just want to say something again. I dress like this because people fear people in suits, and they represent the establishment, and they only come into your life when, like, you need a lawyer or somebody's coming after you for something. And I don't think it's about the trappings. I think it's about conversation as the cure, and that is the conceit at NewsNation, that we've got to get back to talking to each other, even if you don't like what we have to say all the time. Even if you're going to disagree, you don't have to demonize who you disagree with. That's what it's about. They are trying to divide us, and they hate when we talk to each other. So let's keep doing it. We'll be right back.
To reach adulthood, that's why vaccines matter so much. For 40 years, Rotary and partners have delivered vaccines globally. Like here and even here, in your neighborhood and around the world. Rotary is ensuring children grow up safe from preventable diseases.
Junior Achievement is where dreams take flight. We are helping students connect what they learn in school to future work and career success. We are teaching them how to manage money to achieve financial security as adults. And we are showing them that starting a business also means changing lives and communities. However, we can't do it alone. Go to ja.org to learn more.
My name is Corporal Bradley Joseph Seitz.
Jerry Reed.
Kate Weber.
These are real veterans facing a real challenge.
I have PTSD.
And I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder can happen to anyone.
I was still in a war zone in my mind.
But treatment can turn your life around.
Treatment has really saved my life.
To learn about PTSD and how treatment can help you, call your local VA medical center or visit ptsd.va.gov.
This is McGruff the Crime Dog, and I need you to help me take a bite out of crime. Another teenager, victim to fake pills bought from social media. This doesn't seem like a drug deal, but it definitely is. Should buying prescription pills be that easy? Many fake pills contain fentanyl, and an amount small enough to fit on the tip of a pencil can be lethal. So listen, before buying pills from social media, think again. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org and go for real. Brought to you by USPTO and the National Crime Prevention Council.
You're listening to NewsNation on the go, available 24/7 in the NewsNation app, or just say, Alexa, play NewsNation.
Getting on the network Leesburg relies on is easy when you come into the Verizon store at 1612 Village Market Boulevard Southeast. Come check out their latest deals on phones, accessories, and so much more. From shopping to support and everything in between, it's your one-stop shop to get it all. And when you switch to Verizon, you choose what goes into your unlimited plan and save on what you need. There's never been a better time to switch to the network Leesburg relies on. Visit the Verizon store at 1612 Village Market Boulevard Southeast to speak with Thomas and save big today.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. VA disability compensation is open to veterans with a disability rating of 10% or more. Veterans may qualify for more than $4,000 a month. Those with a disability rating of 10% or more also get free or low-cost VA health care. If you have a disability rating, you can apply for a rating increase. Learn more at va.gov/disability.
My daughter's Aspen. She has stage 4 neuroblastoma. St. Jude is like, it saved us. The financial help given here goes a long way. The research helps not just here, it reaches the whole world. And St. Jude is a gift. I just want to say thank you.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Austin Cindric here, driver of the number 2 Discount Tire Ford Mustang, to give you a quick message about tire safety. As a professional driver,